Let me tell you something nobody really likes to admit. Life will break you. Not might, not maybe. You can do everything right. Be kind, be honest, work hard, stay humble, and still, at some point, life will come along and hit you so hard it'll leave you breathless. Not because you deserve it, not because you did something wrong, but because that's part of the human experience. There's no immunity from it. There's no way to plan around it. There is no strategy, no success level, no amount of money, status, or good karma that makes you exempt. You will face days where the weight of it all becomes too much, where the silence in your room is louder than the thoughts in your head, where you question your worth, your purpose, maybe even your existence. You may go through a heartbreak so deep it changes the rhythm of your soul, a loss so personal it silences the laughter in your life, a failure so humiliating you wonder if you'll ever recover. And when that happens, when the cracks begin to show and you're left sitting in a life you don't recognize anymore, you'll be tempted to believe you're alone. But you're not. You're human. Being broken doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. Let's stop pretending that we're supposed to be whole all the time. Let's stop acting like having it together is the goal. The truth is, you weren't designed to float above the chaos of life untouched. You were built to endure, to bend, to break, and then rise again. See, nobody makes it through this life without scars. Some people just hide them better. But behind the smile of every strong person you admire is a season of breaking. A time when they were curled up on the floor, defeated. A time when they were certain they had nothing left to give. That's not weakness. That's reality. Pain doesn't care about timing. It doesn't wait until you're ready. It doesn't knock politely. It shows up at the worst possible moment and dares you to survive it. And too often we think pain means we're doing something wrong, but what if it means we're doing something real? Because pain has a way of stripping away the surface and showing us what's true. When you're broken, you learn things no textbook can teach. You learn how strong you actually are, not the version you post online, not the image you sell to the world, the real you. The one who wakes up when there's no motivation left. The one who keeps showing up when there's no applause. The one who holds on by a thread when it would be easier to let go. You also learn who's really in your corner, who checks in when the spotlight fades, who sees the tears behind the smile. And maybe most importantly, you learn how to stop pretending. Because once you've been broken, authenticity becomes survival. So if you feel like life has cracked you open, good. You're not the exception. You're just getting started. You see, the world trains us to chase strength, but life teaches us that strength isn't what we thought it was. Strength isn't looking tough. Strength is standing back up when your heart is still bleeding. Strength is walking into another day even when your soul is exhausted. Strength is letting the world see the parts of you that aren't perfect and still choosing to believe in yourself. And once you truly understand that being broken is not the end, that it is in fact the beginning of something deeper, then the breaking becomes less terrifying. Because now you're not running from it, you're learning from it. So when you find yourself in that season when the world feels heavy and you feel hollow, don't ask, why me? Instead, ask, what now? What is life trying to show me in this? That strength is trying to be born in this breaking. Because even though the pain is real, so is the transformation. And no matter how deep the break, you are not beyond repair. So it's okay to break. Let me say that again. It's okay to break. We live in a world that praises strength but shames struggle. We've been conditioned to believe that falling apart is something to be embarrassed about, that crying means weakness, that asking for help means failure. But none of that is true. You're not made of steel. You're not a machine. You're a living, breathing, feeling human being, and life, as unpredictable and ruthless as it can be, will test every corner of your soul. It will shake you to the core. It will challenge your identity, your plans, your sense of safety, and yes, sometimes it will break you wide open. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. You can break, but you don't have to stay broken. There's a difference between being knocked down and choosing to stay there. You're allowed to fall, you're allowed to cry, you're allowed to feel lost, but you are not obligated to live the rest of your life in pieces. You see, brokenness is a moment, not a destiny. It may be part of your story, but it's not your whole story. And while the fall may not have been your fault, the rising will be your responsibility. We all go through seasons when getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain, when you can't even recognize the person in the mirror anymore, when joy feels like a distant memory. Those are the moments that test you. Those are the moments where you either give in to the darkness or you fight like hell to find a flicker of light again. And know that light doesn't come all at once. It starts small. It might look like getting through one hard conversation, making it through one lonely night, taking one deep breath when everything in you wants to give up. Healing isn't loud. Rebuilding isn't glamorous. It's quiet, it's slow, it's painfully honest. But it's possible. Staying broken might feel easier because then you don't have to risk anything. You don't have to face the fear of being hurt again. You don't have to climb out of the pit. But ease and growth don't live in the same house. If you stay where it's safe, you'll stay where it's small. You were meant to rise. Even in your brokenness, there's a part of you, even if it's buried, that still believes in better, that still hopes, that still aches for healing. Listen to that voice. That quiet whisper is the part of you that hasn't given up. That's the part that will carry you through. And listen, don't compare your healing to anyone else's. Don't measure your progress against someone else's timeline. Some people rebuild quickly, others crawl, but forward is forward, progress is progress. And every time you choose to keep going, no matter how slowly, you are choosing power over paralysis. Because the truth is, staying broken is a choice. It's not a choice you make once, but a choice you make every day. You can live in the story of your pain, or you can write a new one. You can wear your wounds as chains, or you can wear them as proof that you survived what was meant to destroy you. There's a strange thing about pain. We spend so much of our lives trying to avoid it, afraid of it, running from it, pretending we're immune to it. But ask anyone who's ever grown, truly transformed, and they'll tell you the same thing. Their strength didn't come from the easy chapters. It came from the ones that nearly broke them. It's the truth that most people don't want to hear, and even fewer are willing to accept. Your strength begins where your comfort ends. Not when everything is going well, not when life is in order, but when life is messy, when your heart is heavy, when you've lost more than you thought you could handle, and yet you're still breathing. See, brokenness has a way of peeling back the surface of who we are. When life breaks you, it strips away the roles, the masks, the expectation. It exposes you raw, real, and vulnerable. And it's in that space, that sacred space of emptiness, where true strength is born. Because when there's nothing left to hold on to, that's when you find what's actually been holding you up all along. Maybe it's your faith, maybe it's your values, maybe it's your grit, maybe it's just that stubborn spark inside of you that refuses to go out, no matter how dark the night gets. Strength isn't how loud you roar, it's how deeply you endure. It's not the person who's never been knocked down that's strong. It's the one who's been knocked down 100 times and still chooses to stand. That's the kind of strength that can't be faked, the kind you can't buy, the kind you only earn through suffering, through struggle, through seasons of being broken and choosing every single day to put one foot in front of the other. Have you ever seen a blade being forged? It doesn't come out of the earth sharp and ready. It goes through fire. It's heated, hammered, bent, shaped, and then it's cooled and hardened. That's how it becomes useful. That's how it becomes powerful. The same thing is happening to you. The fire you're in is shaping you, and the pressure you feel is refining you. The pain you're carrying is not proof of weakness. It's the evidence that strength is being born. You may not feel strong right now. You may feel fragile, lost, even defeated. But strength doesn't always look like victory. Sometimes it looks like survival. Sometimes it looks like choosing to stay when walking away would be easier. And sometimes it looks like holding on to your values, your integrity, your kindness, even when life gives you every reason to abandon them. There is power in being broken and still believing in something better. There is strength in sitting in your pain and not letting it turn you bitter. And there is a quiet kind of courage in being cracked wide open and using those cracks to let light in. So if you're in a place right now where life feels like it's falling apart, don't assume you're failing. Don't assume you're weak. You may be standing at the beginning of something powerful, something real, something unshakable. Because more often than not, your strength doesn't start after the storm, it starts inside of it. When life breaks you, the first thing it tries to steal is your sense of control. It shakes your foundation, leaves you overwhelmed, and convinces you that you're helpless, that no matter what you do, nothing will change, that you're at the mercy of what happened to you. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe that lie. You'll begin to see yourself only as a victim of your pain, instead of the author of your next chapter. But here's the truth that most people forget in their hardest moments. Even in your deepest despair, you still have power. No matter how chaotic your circumstances, no matter how out of control everything around you feels, there is one thing no storm, no failure, no betrayal can take away from you, and that is your power to choose how you respond. You might not have had control over what happened. You didn't ask for the heartbreak. You didn't choose the loss. You didn't see the disappointment coming. But you do get to choose what you do with it. That choice is the most powerful tool you possess. It's the very thing that will separate those who stay stuck from those who rise. It's what turns wounds into wisdom and tragedy into transformation. You can't always control what shows up at your door, but you can control what you allow to stay. And more importantly, you can control what you build from what's left. That's your power. That's your freedom. That's the spark the darkness wants you to forget. Because once you remember that even in the rubble you get to choose your next move, you stop being a victim of circumstance and you start becoming a creator of change. And I'm not talking about pretending everything is okay when it's not. Real power isn't found in fake smiles or forced positivity. Real power is found in the quiet decisions you make when no one's watching. Like choosing to get up when everything in you wants to give up. Like choosing to speak kindly to yourself when your inner critic is screaming. Like choosing to take the next step, no matter how small, when your heart is still aching from the last fall. Power doesn't always feel like fire. Sometimes it feels like barely holding on. Sometimes it feels like taking a breath and saying, I don't know how, but I'm going to keep going anyway. That's courage. That's resilience. That's real strength in motion, not loud, not perfect, but relentless. So many people wait for things to get better before they decide to get stronger. But it works the other way around. You decide to get stronger, and slowly things begin to change, not because the world becomes easier, but because you become braver. Your mindset sharpens. Your inner resolve grows. And you begin to lead your life even through the pain instead of letting the pain lead you. Don't underestimate the power of your perspective. The meaning you assign to your suffering will shape how you carry it. If you tell yourself that life is against you, you'll walk in defeat. But if you choose to believe that life is stretching you, preparing you, or shaping you into someone deeper and wiser, suddenly even the worst days begin to serve a purpose. That doesn't erase the pain, but it gives it meaning. And meaning fuels endurance. Meaning gives you something to hold on to when everything else is falling apart. So even when the world says you're powerless, remember this: your decisions still matter. Your thoughts still shape reality. Your inner voice still steers the wheel. You still get to choose the story you tell yourself, the people you surround yourself with, the habits you lean on, and the direction you walk in next. You are never truly powerless unless you choose to be. And the moment you reclaim that truth is the moment you begin to rise, not just from the pain, but through it. There comes a moment after life has broken you, after you face the storm, after the silence, the heartbreak, the failure, when you're left staring at the pieces of what used to be your life. And in that moment, whether you realize it or not, you stand at a crossroads. One path leads to bitterness, resentment, and anger. The other, to growth, renewal, and transformation. You can't walk both. And the choice you make will define not only your healing, but your future. It's easy to grow bitter. That takes no effort at all. When people hurt you, when life lets you down, when things don't go the way you planned, bitterness sneaks in like a slow poison. It tells you you're justified. It tells you it's protecting you. It gives you someone or something to blame, and for a while that blame might feel like relief. You convince yourself that the pain isn't your responsibility anymore, that if you just point fingers long enough, you won't have to feel what's underneath. But bitterness never stays contained. It spreads. It infects your peace, your mindset, your ability to trust again. It locks you into a version of yourself that is built on pain instead of progress. Bitterness is a prison that wears the disguise of protection. It makes you hard when you should be healing. It keeps your fists clenched when what you need most is to open your hands and rebuild. And the longer you hold on to it, the heavier it becomes, until one day you realize the pain that hurt you is long gone, but the bitterness is what's now holding you hostage. Growth, on the other hand, is harder. Growth demands honesty. It forces you to look inward, not outward. It challenges you to ask the painful questions. What can I learn from this? How can I become stronger, wiser, more compassionate because of this? It doesn't dismiss the hurt, it transforms it. Growth doesn't say, this never should have happened. It says, since it did, I refuse to let it be wasted. Choosing growth means choosing to see pain not as a punishment, but as a teacher. And yes, the lessons hurt, but they shape you in ways comfort never could. You become more self-aware, more discerning, more resilient. You learn what truly matters. You discover what you can live without and what you cannot. You uncover a version of yourself that is deeper than who you were before the storm, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. And make no mistake, growth is not passive, it is intentional. It's in the moment you decide to forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. It's in the moment you decide to show up for life again, even if your heart still trembles. It's in the moment you choose to speak hope into your own life instead of rehearsing the story of your wounds. Growth is not a one-time decision. It's 1,000 daily choices to keep moving forward, to stay open, to keep believing that your life still holds meaning, even after the breaking. There's nothing easy about choosing growth, but bitterness will cost you more. It will drain your joy, harden your spirit, and make you a stranger to yourself. Growth, though difficult, is worth it because it leads you back to your power, it leads you back to purpose, it leads you back to peace, not because everything becomes perfect, but because you become someone who knows how to rise even when it isn't. Pain by itself feels meaningless. When you're in the middle of it, it feels like a thief, stealing your peace, your dreams, your sense of direction. It's sharp, it's messy, and most of the time it feels unfair. But what if I told you that pain can become something more than just a wound? What if the very thing that tried to destroy you could actually become the reason you rise? You see, pain is inevitable. No one escapes it. Life hands it out in different forms: loss, rejection, betrayal, disappointment. But not everyone uses it the same way. Some people let pain bury them. Others, they let it build them. What separates the two is not how much pain they've endured, it's what they decide to do with it. Because at the end of the day, your pain can either be the weight that breaks you down or the foundation you build your purpose on. There's something sacred about a person who chooses to turn their suffering into service. They don't just survive what happened to them, they transform it. They take what once caused them shame and use it to lift others. They take what once silenced them and turn it into a voice for those still struggling. These are the people who have learned the art of turning pain into purpose. And the truth is, that ability lives inside you too. Your deepest pain often hides your highest calling. The battles you've fought and are still fighting have carved out compassion, strength, and understanding in you that no textbook could ever teach. You've felt what it's like to break, which means you now know how to help others heal. You've known darkness, which means you can recognize the flicker of hope in someone else's eyes. Your story, even in its unfinished and painful chapters, is not just yours to carry. It's yours to share, to shape, to shine through. Purpose doesn't mean you'll never feel a sting again. It doesn't erase the memories or eliminate the grief, but it gives your suffering direction. It allows the pain to move through you rather than consume you. It gives you the power to say, this didn't happen for nothing. This is going to matter. Somehow, some way, I'm going to make this count. And purpose doesn't always mean standing on a stage or writing a book. Sometimes it means being present for your children in a way your parents never were. Sometimes it means starting something small in your community, a support group, a shelter, a message of hope. Sometimes it means simply living a life of resilience, walking with dignity, and letting your existence be a quiet but undeniable reminder that healing is possible. You may not be able to change the past, but you can change what it produces in you. You can choose to stop asking, why me, and start asking, what now? That's where purpose begins, not in the answer, but in the decision to create one. When you begin to live with purpose, the pain doesn't disappear, but it transforms. It stops being a closed door and becomes an open one. It stops being something that happened to you and becomes something that now moves through you. You stop dragging your pain like a burden and begin carrying it like a torch. And maybe, just maybe, someone else, someone lost, someone broken, will see that light. And in that moment, your pain will have done something extraordinary. It will have become the reason someone else didn't give up. There's something incredibly powerful about a comeback. Not because it's flashy or dramatic, but because it's rooted in quiet resilience. It's the part of the story where the odds were stacked against you, where no one expected you to rise, and yet, somehow, you did. That's what makes a comeback so much more than just a return to where you were. A true comeback doesn't take you back to who you used to be. It reveals who you were meant to become all along. Setbacks are inevitable in life. We all face them. A failed relationship, a lost job, a shattered dream, a betrayal we never saw coming. These things knock the wind out of us. And in those moments, it's easy to think the story is over, that there's no way back, that we've lost too much, that we've fallen too far. But the truth is, the setback is not the ending, it's the setup. It's the turning point. It's the part of the story where you discover what you're truly made of. Because a setback strips away the unnecessary. It cuts through the noise, the ego, the distractions, and brings you face to face with what really matters. And in that clarity, in that brokenness, lies the raw material for something greater. You learn, you adapt, you become wiser, stronger, more intentional. You stop living life based on other people's expectations and start living it based on your own truth. What people don't often realize is that greatness rarely comes from uninterrupted success. It comes from failure. It comes from rejection. It comes from humiliation, heartache, and disappointment. The most powerful stories you've ever heard, the people you admire most, their journeys weren't straight lines. They were full of setbacks. But that's what made their comebacks meaningful. You see, when you come back from something that tried to break you, you're not just returning to life, you're rewriting the rules. You're no longer driven by fear of failure because you've already tasted it and survived. You don't crave approval the way you once did because now you know what it feels like to lose everything and still stand. You've become someone who knows how to rebuild, and that makes you unstoppable. But make no mistake, comebacks aren't instant. They require time, patience, and grit. They're built one small decision at a time, choosing to get up, choosing to believe in yourself again, choosing to take the next step even when you're scared. These choices may seem insignificant at first, but over time they build momentum. And before you know it, what felt like an end becomes a beginning. What looked like a detour becomes the main road. What once defined your downfall becomes the very reason for your rise. People will notice. Some will be inspired, others may doubt. But your comeback is not about proving anything to anyone. It's about becoming whole again. It's about returning not to who you were before the fall, but to someone wiser, stronger, deeper. Someone who knows the pain, but chose the healing. Someone who faced the darkness, but carried their own light. So if you're standing in the aftermath of a setback right now, don't be discouraged. This is not your final chapter. Your story is still being written. And often, the chapters that follow the fall are the ones where the true magic happens. Not because everything gets easier, but because you get better. You rise not just back to the surface, but to a higher version of yourself. One built from fire, forged in truth, and ready to make the rest of life more meaningful than ever before. Life will break you, not once, not twice, but over and over again. Not because it's cruel, but because it's real. Because in the breaking, something deeper is revealed, something stronger, something more true. You may not have asked for the pain, the setback, the loss, but here you are, still breathing, still standing, maybe bruised, maybe tired, maybe walking slower than before, but you're here, and that means something. That means you still have power, you still have choice, you still have the ability to turn this pain into something purposeful, something powerful, something bigger than what tried to defeat you. I've learned that when life breaks you, it's not the end, it's the invitation. The invitation to rise, to take inventory of who you are, to decide what matters, to let go of who you were and become who you were always meant to be. Every wound you carry, every scar on your heart, every piece of your story, it's not your shame, it's your signature. It's the mark of someone who's lived, someone who's felt deeply, someone who chose to keep going. You now understand that rock bottom isn't a grave. It's a foundation, a place to rebuild, to rise with stronger hands, clearer eyes, and a heart that has learned how to stretch beyond the pain. Your growth is no longer optional. It's the only way forward. Bitterness is heavy, and you're ready to set it down. You don't need to carry what tried to destroy you. You get to carry what you've built from it. The comeback is not just a return, it's a revelation. It reveals how unbreakable you truly are. It reminds the world that pain doesn't have the final say. And if you lean into the fire, if you let it shape you rather than consume you, you will emerge transformed, not burned, but refined. So stand tall, not because you've never fallen, but because you know what it takes to rise. Speak boldly, not because you've never been silenced, but because you've found your voice in the silence. Love harder, not because you've never been hurt, but because you've chosen not to let the pain harden you. This is not the end. This is where your next chapter begins. Write it with courage, live it with purpose, and carry yourself like someone who has walked through the fire and came out carrying light.